to you all, and thank you for choosing 93.3 KFM this Saturday morning. It is the 24th of June 2024. A warm welcome to Views, People and News, that's VPN, where we look critically at the news events that unfolded in the course of the week and try to make sense out of it. Well, how do these events impact us, and what do they mean for our collective future? Today, our topic is corruption. MP's oversight failure. We're also going to look at the events that continue to unfold in Kenya and the implication of the protests on the region. My guests right now, I have Honorable Simon Peter Opolot. You have so many names.
The Guardian.
Okwalinga, the Guardian. MP for Kanyum County in Kumi District. My other guests will be joining us shortly. They're just a little held up, but they're on the way. Honorable Simon Peter Okwalinga, the Guardian.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the listeners.
That's very good. Well, if you tuned in last Saturday, we were talking about the corruption syndicate in the government and what it will take to turn things around. But little did we know that very weekend, the conversation would not actually change. Some of our elected leaders would make a public appearance and glorify corruption. We shall be talking more about this later. But for now, here's some of the big news of the week. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics released its preliminary results from the recently conducted census, showing that the country's population now stands at 45.9 million. And out of this, women make up 23.4 million, while men account for 22.5 million of the population. On Monday also, President Yoweri Museveni declined to sign the appropriation bill on grounds that members of Parliament tampered with the budget without authority from the executive. Now, Parliament has been recalled from recess and the House will reconvene on July 2nd. The issue of concern is partly that the Budget Committee of Parliament reallocated about 750 billion without the approval of the executive. Now, related to the budget of this financial year and the events, leading to the passing of it and so on, and how money is being sent, we've seen in the recent past the arrest of MPs, and reports indicate that more legislators will be picked up and questioned. We are seeing reports of misappropriation of funds in agencies like the Microfinance Support Center. Parliamentary committees on the spot include the Budget Committee. The Trade Committee is equally on the spot. We've been seeing, again this week, allegations of misappropriation of funds, actually theft of money meant for cooperatives, and that's also what has led to the arrest of some of the legislators. These are actually very interesting developments. But, Honourable, let me start from the issue of the census. Personally, I wasn't counted. I know a lot of people who weren't counted. And when I was on X, I was also seeing comments. People were like, oh, how could I miss out being part of the 45.9 million people? What do you make when you counted, first of all?
Yeah, at the last end.
Lucky you.
After making calls.
You had to make calls, make calls to be counted.
Yes.
That's interesting. But what do you make of this report and the figures? And also, because people like us who are not counted, is this really accurate?
Yeah. Basically, for me, it will not be very, very accurate for me to give my opinion, because they are saying these are preliminary results.
Preliminary, yes.
Maybe they want first to get to know people's comments before they could release the final one. But even I saw the president himself was surprised.
That
he actually said
few.
He says all along I thought we were 48 million people, but now these people are saying we're 45.9. So based on the challenges that these people passed through, I really doubt that this was an accurate report.
Well, I understand. We actually had the team from UBOS twice on this show on different Saturdays, and when we were talking about, okay, what do you think the margin of error would be like, and they said, it should be maybe plus minus, I think 2 or 5 around there. But I don't know how big the margin of error could actually be. Looking at, because I don't stay very far away, and I'll tell you, opposite us, across almost the entire street where I am, so many households, because if they were, we would have seen the writings, the chalk marks and all that, but it wasn't. So you begin to, and when I make calls to my friends, were you guys counted? A lot of them actually say, no one showed up, we weren't counted. So I don't know, but that's a conversation for another time. I want us to move now as we wait for our other guests to show up. What is happening in Parliament, Honourable?
In terms of what? In
terms of all these developments that we are seeing. The Budget Committee, we are hearing all these talks of money meant for cooperatives, and now the appropriation bill that the President says, look, I am not signing until some of these issues are ironed out. Just help us understand what the House is like.
Well, your question, you're surprising me, because when you say what is happening in Parliament, and you're already giving indications of things which have taken place of recent. Maybe we should be talking about why the President has returned the appropriation bill.
We shall talk about that.
So I then maybe also wondering why people are being arrested, which I know you are aware, because police has preferred charges to these people. Isn't it?
Okay, my curiosity perhaps is, have we seen the last of it? Or are we going to wake up tomorrow again and maybe another committee is on the spot for, also mismanaging money and so on?
My sociology class many years ago at Makerere indicated that human beings are dynamic and that social actions are repetitive. Yes, they are repetitive. They may not repeat the same exact way, but somehow, yes,
it will be close.
Yes, but behavior, because if the same players, actors, are still involved and within the same environment, there are dynamics that shape the thinking
and the choices.
Yes. Remember, we're operating in a society called Uganda, and then in a government, yes, and a government which is called NRM, and then with opposition parties, same opposition parties that have been operating, some of which have been operating since independence. So, and when you now come to Parliament now is a small entity operating in this bigger world with so much to influence its behavior and actions. So, would you not expect any other things to happen?
In other words,
as long as
haven't seen the last of it.
Yes, as long as human beings do exist and do operate in that similar environment, you will have to see more and more.
That's actually disappointing and depressing. And actually, when I woke up, when I went to bed last night, I said, I just pray that this week ends. From between now and the new week that's coming, next Saturday, I'm hoping that the next 7 days, we don't wake up and we see, there's another story of misappropriation of some obscene amount of money somewhere. But it from where things are, from the way things are running, it seems like, passing through the eye of a needle would probably be a lot easier than expecting for us to actually go through an entire week without hearing of corruption scandals here and there. It is disappointing.
Of course it's disappointing.
Let's talk about the appropriation bill now. Like you wanted us to actually go into. So the President returns this bill back to Parliament.
Yes.
And you people are back for a conversation for plenary on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
That's going to be Tuesday.
Yes.
Just take us through what we don't know regarding the President's decision. What informed his decision, first of all? Let's start with that.
Well, I cannot precisely tell what exactly, because we haven't been served with a letter that accompanied the return of the bill.
Okay, you only got the
what I can now quote is just a letter from the clerk inviting us to come from recess and attend plenary on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Get it?
Yes.
But what we are all talking about is speculation that we have read from newspapers basically. I read in Monta newspaper and other online channels. Yes. And we have heard about the issue of the 750.4 billion shillings that the president got concerned about. That actually was made as a reallocation within the budget. Yes. So that is so far what is available to us.
But was Parliament working within its limits to actually appropriate the 750 billion?
Maybe we need to know what is to appropriate.
To move?
When you look at the basic dictionary definition of the word appropriate, what is to appropriate, if you could check? It's basically to devote resources for a special purpose, to devote resources to a special purpose. Meaning, in this case, Parliament being the representatives of the people are assumed to interact with their constituents and communities for which they represent. And they know these special needs to cause this special purpose to appropriate these resources. Now, that means if it's a special purpose, it means it's a priority. We come to the word priority. So, for that matter, therefore, the question is, between the legislature and the executive, who sets the priorities? Economic, developmental, etc. priorities. You will discover that these priorities are proposed by the executive.
Proposed?
Yes. They are proposed, literally, because they will need a final agreement, or what you people may say, approval.
Before
or endorsement.
Before we proceed, Honorable, let me also acknowledge. It's okay. It's okay. My other guest has walked in. Let him catch his breath. That's Honorable Augustine Ruzindana, former IGG, former member of the East African Legislative Assembly as well. From Parliament. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Just catch your breath. We'll get to you. We'll come to you.
I missed him when I was joining IGG. By the time I came in, I found he had already left. It was now Justice Josam Tumwesje who had taken over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, who sets these priorities? You discover it is government that sets the priorities. That's why when you look at Article 155 of the Constitution, among other things, it talks about how Parliament, first of all, the Parliament considers the estimates of revenues and expenditures laid before it by either the authority that authorized by the President, here for this case Minister of Finance, and may discuss and review the estimates and make appropriate recommendations. Yes, appropriate recommendations.
So, do you think Parliament was actually right to make this move of reallocating the 750 billion?
I wouldn't want to be the judge to say right or wrong, but what I need us to do is to maybe look at the report of from the budget committee. Get it? And then look at how they identified
priorities.
Yes, how they identified. First of all, how they decided to say these ones are not priorities, and these ones are the priorities. get it?
Okay.
That is what we need to examine. How did we reach at 750 billion? For example, if you pick money, say meant for, I saw the budget committee report, there is an item number 1 where they identified for relocation, about 4 billion. It was about issues of funding a mineral development project, a mineral development infrastructure project. Then 4 billion, they said this was over provision of 4 billion. That means Parliament or the budget committee took it upon themselves and reviewed the project, this mineral infrastructure development project, reviewed it and realized that it was over-provided by 4 billion shillings. So the question is, does the budget committee have that time to be able to review this project which was developed by technocrats over time? You don't know how long they spent. Then here we have this short time in this room. We have reviewed and discovered, oh, the money these people provided is overshot by 4 billion shillings. Therefore, we must remove this 4 billion and take it. Now, I went and looked at one item somewhere in that budget report. I discover, I won't mention the ministry. I won't mention that ministry, but you will discover that part of it was transferred there, and this is what it reads. It was 9 billion, and it says to provide, to enhance the capacity, ministerial capacity and top management services.
What does that mean?
9 billion shillings.
What does that? So
you understand that? To enhance capacity, ministerial capacity and top management services.
Just like
now, compare that vis-a-vis the mineral infrastructure development project. Then enhancement of top management and ministerial capacity.
Sounds like language for just accountability, but the money is clearly.
So the issue is, we are saying appropriation means we are taking it to
priority areas.
So between these two that I've just quoted, just on the spot, development of infrastructure for minerals
and enhancing
capacity of minister and top management,
which is 9 billion vis-a-vis
the 4 billion which they picked. Which means we assume that part of the 9 billion was picked from the other 4 billion constitutes the 9 billion. So which one is the priority?
Thank you. Honorable, you're most welcome. Honorable Augustine Rizina, former MP for Ruhama County. That's correct?
Correct.
Yes. Good to see you on the show.
Good morning and good morning, listeners. Yes.
Oh yeah. So well, before you came in, we've been running through the events that have transpired in the week, including the release of the census results, including the corruption issues that keep unfolding every now and then, the arrest of the MPs in relation to misappropriation of money, the budget committee being on the spot for also all these kinds of irregularities, the trade committee being on the spot for the money for the cooperatives that has actually also seen some legislators being arrested. Generally, last week we were actually talking about the corruption syndicate that we are seeing and witnessing in the country, and basically what this means and how we can actually get out of this. As someone who, as a former IGG, I would like to just have your insight into the way these allegations of graft are being handled. If you could.
Well, I didn't listen to what came before. But if I may start with the census, I was surprised by the figure 47 million. It's
45.9. That's what they say.
45 or 46.9.
It's 45.9.
So 46. I would have expected the population to be nearer 50.
True.
And that means that actually very many people were not counted. And because the process took a very long time, I think indeed quite a large number of people are not counted. And when that is not done, that affects the planning of the country, short and long term actually, because at some stage that figure must be re-evaluated. I think there would be need for another mini census, because that figure is not a
true representation of the country.
The birth rate, for example, cannot just fall so drastically and so on. So that figure needs to be looked into. The other aspect about corruption generally, I think corruption now has become unmanageable. The proportion of it. You see, when I am the one who set up the Office of the Inspector General of Government. And at the time we were setting it up, we studied the other anti-corruption institutions all over the world, and we had also the human rights mandate. So we did study also human rights institutions elsewhere and so on, and the Ombudsman one. Now, corruption is tackled if it is an exception, not the norm. And what we are seeing now is that actually it has become the norm. Now, when it becomes the norm, there must now be a reset. We must reset the whole system so that, again, it becomes an exception, not the norm. If we have reached a stage where we are talking about the subversion of the budget process, what I heard about and what I have been seeing is that actually the budget process has been subverted to the extent that people can pre-plan
to manipulate
the corruption process, and it is inbuilt within the budget process. Reallocations are not done in Parliament. They are done by the ministries which have been given a certain amount. And the budget is a budget of the executive. It is not set by Parliament. So Parliament beginning to change priorities and so on, and increase figures. And because to increase figures, you must increase the sources also. How do you put figures in? So what I saw described and happening, and for which people are being, I actually also happened to have been a member of the budget committee at the time the Budget Act came into the process. Before that, the budget process started almost at the end. So we said no for Parliament to have a meaningful input. It has to come in much earlier, and that is how the Budget Act came in and brought Parliament in the process much earlier. And so by the time the budget is being approved, everything is agreed with the executive and with all ministries and so on. So this process that has come
I'd like you to, because when we were young, when you people were in these positions, and I must say, growing up, I would say I had a lot of respect and admiration for people like you and other statesmen and stateswomen who were actually managing things in the country. I cannot say that I and so many other people have that same respect for the institutions that we have because of these kinds of things that are happening. I just want to ask you to just help me and help us understand what made your lot of politicians or leaders different from the crop that we're having today. But that should be after the break. Back from the break, this is still VPN, and I'm your host, Judith Atim. Today we're discussing the issue of corruption, and we're asking, is it a failure of the oversight role of our MPs? Later in the show, we'll also be looking at the events in Kenya, and we'll look at the implications of the protests on the region generally. With me in the studio, I have Honorable Augustine Ruzindana, who is a former Inspector General of Government. He's also former MP for Ruhama County. And Honorable Simon Peter Opolot Okwalinga, the Guardian, Member of Parliament for Kanyum County in Kumi District. And let me go back to you, Honorable Ruzindana. Before the break, we were talking about white-collar treason. And I asked you what makes your generation of leaders different from the generation of leaders that we are having today.
I am not sure, because I can only talk about mine, the current one. When we went into public service, we were guided by the public interest. The element of the personal was not there. And I can see now the personal has superseded the public interest, and it has become normal, because you see people flaunting excesses in the public with calling media and so on, and they are not ashamed of things that really should not be. If they have done certain things, they shouldn't exhibit them very, very proudly. I think that was the difference with us. With us, theft was something not expected by an honorable person, and so now it would have been very shameful for someone to be described as a thief. And once the public perceives people, a class of leaders as thieves, they can't be honorable. They can't be respected. In other words, respect is earned. It is. It is earned. And once you have lost it, it's very, very difficult to recover it. People would remember in school when somebody had something of theft, he carried that reputation for the rest of their lives. True. Throughout their life. Now, As of now, apparently people are not afraid of being called thieves. And it looks to be something honorable now. And that is the difference. So we were guided by the public interest. It was important that if you are in a public role, you performed your role for the public interest, not for your interest as a person. And currently, Karibu Honorable.
Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimura just joined us in the studio. MP for Buyaga West County in Kagadi District. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you. It is a great honor to meet senior here.
Just catch your breath a bit while we listen to...
No, she was asking me what was the difference between...
What makes their crop of leaders different from the generation of leaders that we have today? That was the question.
And I can tell you we were guided by the public interest. When I became IGG, I was earning 11,000 shillings. I drove my personal car for 2 years. There wasn't enough resources to provide official vehicles at that time, and I've never worked as hard as I did until I had possibly to campaign for the CA. I did, but the guiding principle was the public interest, not the personal. And today you see people flaunting things which they should be ashamed of, to hide actually, and that is the whole problem. So the problem is that corruption has become so huge that we need a systemic reset again to make it an exception, not the norm. And now it has become the norm, and everybody is looking for an avenue wherever they are
to steal.
Yes. And the things I see Parliament being accused of, I actually don't know how they manage. They do them. Because I was chair of Public Accounts Committee for 5 years, immediately after the CA, and we set systems. We set systems in place. At my time, actually, I was included. Now the local government accounts committee, we are the ones who recommended that it should be set up. No, the other one was overloaded. And so we set up systems, and the systems were there. Even the remuneration, we set them up. We had seen that the previous one, they were not paid at all. So we did have a system. Why would people be paid for sitting in the committees and so on? Because that is what they are paid the salary for. And even on the plenary, it's not plenary, and so on. So I for 5 years I wasn't paid anything for being chair of Public Accounts Committee. No. The car I received, I paid for it. The only thing that Parliament did was to arrange a loan at 12% interest, and we paid. And we paid.
And you still served the country diligently.
I would not have at personal level managed to get a new car, a new vehicle at that. So now we need to reset the system. We need to reset the system, and people will serve the public, not themselves.
Okay. Honorable Tinke, I'll come to you, but after I speak to my brother here. Also, Honorable, what do you think makes your generation of leaders different from their generation? Do you think, like it says, they prioritize public interest, public service? Do you agree with that? What are the priorities of this generation of leaders, in your opinion?
Earlier on, I told you that the behavior of a given group of people is often determined by the environment. The environment shapes the behavior. And in this case, the environment at that time, you can't say was similar to the current environment. By the time, at their time, you realize that the education system, the network of education, I mean religious, from religious institutions, from family, and from schools, shaped their way of doing things. The society, which includes the family, shaped their way of thinking. In terms of, for example, when I was growing up, which I believe that's the time when they were already working in office. When I was growing up, a child cannot come with a goat home and he is asked, where did you bring this? A child cannot come with a goat home and is not asked, where did you bring this from?
And probably even told to take it back.
Wait a minute. He fails to explain properly. Now the clan will sit and tell him, please, you have to return this goat where you picked it from. They will get 2 boys there. Those 2 boys are told by the clan head that, please, you escort this one, but on the way to the other corner, finish him up. We don't want such characters in our community. So these 2 will go accompanying this boy. He's happy that they are escorting him to take back the goat, but along the way, they will finish him. That is how society.
That was brutal, though.
Teso traditionally. That's how Teso behaved. You could never see any Teso celebrating theft. At least where I come from. We could not celebrate at any one time that we are celebrating theft. So the difference therefore is, I also wanted, before I go there, you should have asked the Honorable Ruzindana, having been the former IGG and actually the pioneer IGG, what their role, what his role as IGG was vis-a-vis the present IGG. Because the IGG is mandated fully as a constitutional body to fight what? Corruption. And they are not supposed to be controlled by any authority, and they are not even supposed to wait for complaints. They are supposed to just move in as long as they suspect. Those days, when I was in IGG, by the time he had already left, it was just Josam Tumwesije and Faith Monda. We had what they call authority cards. Small authority cards like the police ones, warrant cards. It was written according to the law that mandates you, meaning that at any one time, even as you are walking along the road, you can arrest a policeman taking a bribe and you just show the warrant, that authority card. Meaning you don't have to wait for somebody to complain to you as long as you suspect what? There is corruption being committed.
Yes. Okay.
So, now, the issue, last time when I wrote in an article in the New Vision, I blamed the education system that we are passing through, that our children pass through, the network of education, meaning the schools, the religious entities, and the family. I blamed them for the increase of corruption today and the justification for corruption that we have today. Why? Morality is not anywhere in the syllabus of our education system. It's not anywhere. The only time that you try to peep into it is when you see religious studies being told. But that again worsens the situation, because when they go to these churches or these religious entities, they are seeing pastors carrying sacks of money.
No, but now, sorry to cut you short, Honorable, but if we're to now push the schools to also be teaching, say, morality, not that they shouldn't, then what's the role of the family? Because
this is what I'm saying. I am saying a network.
There are certain things that have to start right at home.
Madam Atim, how much time does a child spend at school? Give a year, period of a year. somebody in secondary in a boarding school.
My
No.
we are running out of time. I need to
You get it, but you see to answer so that you don't just blame the family.
Let me respond.
You
to
just
that.
don't
Sure.
blame the family.
Honorable Tinker, before you came in, we started our conversation looking back at the things that have transpired during the week. The census report showing we're 45.9 million, which a lot of people actually think it's much less than what we are. I don't know if you have a different view to that. And then, of course, the issue that you found Honorable Rosindana addressing, the issue of these generational differences in the leadership that we are seeing, the past and the present.
First of all, I want to apologize for coming in late. I drove from the constituency this morning, and the road that I used somewhere, they are constructing it. I did not factor in the time the trucks would stop us. So I lost like half an hour to be here. I was looking forward to meeting my senior Honorable Zindana. Certainly, it's a very, very big honor for me to be here with him and my honorable colleague Simon. This morning, what we are discussing is something very, very critical. When you say, what is the difference between you and your father? Between you and your father. Certainly, there is a very big difference in terms of age. But at the time he became a leader, there are certain things he could never do. When he was growing up, did he tell us the do's and don'ts? Yes, they said it. They told us. So we cannot start. I respectfully differ from Simon. We have had all these knowledges passed on to us. Do not steal. In the Catholic Church, we have a catechism.
Yeah.
For you to become conscious of your religion, those are some of the things they start teaching.
At a very early age.
At a very early age. In the Bible, that's what is stipulated as early as possible. When you look at who are these thieves that they are arresting or convicting, you remember there is a lawyer who died in prison, respectively, he was called, I've forgotten his name. At the Law Development Center, they pass on three things: knowledge, skill, and values. They actually even tested them. If the three are not there, you will not get out of LDC. You won't. So this person gets out of LDC when he has been fully equipped with all the three things: knowledge, skills, and values for emphasis. And that's what my honorable colleague was referring to: morality, issues of moral. And he reaches in his work, he abandons. You have seen lawyers representing a client, because the one he's against is richer than his client. The other person passes behind and gives him an offer, and he accepts it and abandons his client. That's not what is taught at LDC. In our language on the street, we say that is sharp practice. That is sharp practice. But in essence, it's theft. It's against what we were taught at Law Development Center. It's against. Cite anyone whom they could have spoken about and dig in their background. Do you find that none of them is not grounded in all those things? They are grounded, but they abandon them. So those are the things I think we should investigate. Why are we abandoning the good practices, the good values, the good morals? The good morals. What is wrong with us? For me, anybody who speaks reality will tell. I can buy the idea that there is more pressure today than it was those days. Today, almost everything you have to go to the market. In the market, it's very expensive. The schools are damn expensive. We who are in political circles, the pressure from the constituents is just too much. But at the same time, you will ask yourself, are you the only one facing this pressure?
Exactly.
So what is the problem? I want to give an example. During the time we were debating age limit, I was in Israel. They called me and said, we have given such amount of money to so and so, go and pick it. I told that person, I'm sorry, I took up a pilgrimage in the Holy Land. I'm sorry, I am not taking your money. And I ask you to take that money from that person, because he will claim he has given it to me when he has eaten it. And it was a lot of money. They gave them 200 million, those who voted. For me, he had given that person 500 million. I declined the 500 million. It did not mean that I did not need money at that time. I remember even during that time I went for that holy pilgrimage. I did not have any even upkeep money. I had to call my father-in-law, is the one who sent me additional money. Is the one who sent me additional money, which I returned to him later. But I declined to take the 500 million. So you are not the only person facing this pressure. There is something wrong with the individuals. My submission, therefore, where is the biggest corruption? The biggest corruption is in those who are in charge of our budget. Implementation of the budget. The other day we talked about Parliament. Parliament has a budget of 1 trillion. And they have expanded. I mean, they have, how do we use this word of, in English, I'm more grounded in Ruchiga than in English.
It's okay. We will understand.
It is what they have put in the public, that Parliament is very, very corrupt. Whereas, according to what they have investigated, it can be true, but at the same time, there is the 47 trillion they are not talking about. The IGG report indicates that 10 trillion is lost
in corruption annually. Yes.
Annually. If Parliament has been, actually it is only this financial year that Parliament was able to reach 1 trillion. Let's presume all those years it is Parliament which has been losing 1 trillion. What are these other institutions that are losing the 9 billion, the 9 trillions? Why are they not talking about them? Such that we can squarely handle this corruption. IGG, they are limited because the appointing authority, his will to fight corruption. Me, I'm very sorry. President Museveni abandoned the cause. He came with a very good idea, a revolutionary mind. He reaches somewhere, he starts producing children, putting them in positions of responsibility, putting there his wife, bringing relatives. What they start stealing. Did he talk about them? Did he imprison his brother? Are we not aware of what he did? We are aware of what he did. Now he wakes up at how old? I'm arresting an MP who who was asking for a bribe. Your brother asked for a bribe, took the bribe. This one asked for a bribe, he did not take it. He did not take it.
But I mean, the fact that he did ask shows us that his
yes, I am not defending this person. I am not defending this person. I said because when you solicit, that's already a crime. You get me? According to the law, you are auctionable. But what we are trying to say is that this thing has been around President Museveni for a very long period of time. For him to wake up at this time and say, now I'm going to deal with the corruption.
Welcome back from the break. You're still tuned to 93.3 KFM, and this is VPN. I'm your host, Judith Atim. We are still talking about corruption and the role of the oversight role of MPs. Are they doing their jobs or are they failing? My guest, once again, I have Honorable Augustine Ruzindana, who is a former IGG and former MP for Ruhama County. Honorable Simon Peter Okwalinga Opolot, who is the MP for Kanyum County in Kumi District. And last but not least, I have Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire, MP Buyaga West County, Kagadi. Now, before we went into the break, Honorable we were still having the conversation about this generational leadership and what's different today and from what it was in the past. And Honorable Tinkasimire asked an interesting question, looking at the president and also his practices that seem to promote or encourage corruption, while at the same time talking about fighting corruption. Is he really walking the talk or not? But I want to draw you, and before that, Honorable, you made a very interesting analogy that will bring us to this audio that I want us to listen to about traditionally how kids were raised in Teso. If you stole a goat, you'd be told to take it back.
Correct, yes.
But let's listen to the speaker and what she said last week. And which also takes us to the issue of how do we raise our kids if we are talking about fighting corruption at the family, but again, on the other hand, you're saying, if a child does this, it's okay, you can actually shield them. Let me ask Stephen to actually, let me increase the volume so we can all take a good listen.
Thank you so much for giving us very good leaders. First of all, I want to bring you greetings from Honorable Sise Namuju.
Okusoka kwa byonna ayagala kutuusa okulamusa kwa Honorable Sise Namuju.
She says she loves all of you.
Abategeezezza nti abaagala nnyo Honorable Sise Namuju.
I went and met Sise Namuju.
Maama yagenda n'alambula Honorable Sise Namuju.
She's in good spirit.
Ali mu mbeera nnungi.
And she's going to be with you.
Era agenda kuvaayo, agenda kubeera nammwe mu kaseera katali kanene.
That is going to be your woman MP forever.
Honorable Sise Namuju yagenda okubeera ddala member wa Parliament omukyala ebbanga lyonna mpaka Yesu Kristo lw'alidda.
And the president has heard your cries.
Era president awuliriza okusaba kwammwe.
Where you said that when your child misbehaves, you beat and say go back and do something good.
Nga enjogera bwegamba nti omwana bw'aba akusobezza omukangavvulamu katonotono n'omugamba genda otereeze okola ebintu ebirungi.
And you're better off having a child, even if she goes and eats something, so long as she brings back home.
Ofuudako n'omuntu nga bw'agenda n'abaako kaafunye akaleeta ate n'agasa nammwe n'abagabirako.
Honorable Tinka, before we went in, you were talking about the estimate by the IGG that we're losing 10 trillion shillings every year in corruption, and the assumption that if Parliament is, say, losing 1 trillion, where's the other 9 trillion going? Why is the spotlight not on the other agencies or entities that are equally stealing money? But I think perhaps why Ugandans shine the spotlight on Parliament so much is because of the fact that we elect leaders to go there, and so we have to be interested in actually what our leaders are doing with our tax money. And also, if you're having it, I don't think Parliament has been in the spotlight for corruption at any time other than the time when we're having Speaker Anita Mong heading this House. I'm not saying Parliament has been clean entirely under other speakers, but the extent to which we're actually seeing these accusations and allegations is just too damning. And what the evidential value that we see people actually share, say, on social media and other platforms, despite the fact that some people will say, oh, it's not proven, the speaker has not yet been found guilty, and so on. But the mere fact that these issues come up, I think, is what puts Parliament at the center. We've never had Parliament at the center of a mess like we're having today. So when you hear the head of the House making these kinds of statements in public at a time when Parliament is ridden with scandal one after another, what comes to your mind as someone who sits in that House? I know you don't agree with her and the way she runs things, but what really do you feel proud to actually associate with the 11th Parliament?
Well, of course, our image has gone down. When you compare us with the other parliaments, we have gone down. But it does not mean that it is the first parliament to be on the spotlight for taking bribes. Was it the 7th parliament was on the spotlight for changing term limits because of, was it 2 million, 5 million? 5 million. 5 million. Subsequently, there is so much corruption that has been going on unnoticed in the House. Like the one which came to the forefront was the 200 million for changing age limit, which was in the 10th Parliament. The 10th Parliament. Now, what is in the 11th Parliament are issues, budget items that look to be inflated, that where members of Parliament receive huge amounts of money on their accounts, like the money that they talk about where Honorable Mawanda was arrested and the colleagues for cooperatives. I have been on the budget committee a number of times. When we go for a retreat to prepare the budget, after receiving reports from various sectoral committees, I think this happens during this period. I have seen when we finish the sessions, we normally finish a bit late, like after dinner. For me, my practice normally, because I don't take alcohol, I prefer not to go to the bar. So I choose to go and sleep. When I retreat in the morning, people tell me we are in the bar, but we also had this meeting. This meeting, of course, I don't take them serious. Because issues of resource allocation, we have already handled them. We have already handled them. Now, I think what happens the other side is the issue of discussing the commissions, the issue of discussing how they root this country. They root this country. I'm glad I have never been in that club. And I pray that anytime I am on the budget committee, after finishing my work, I go and sleep. Because that's a very dangerous trend, where a member of parliament, instead of representing his people, he represents himself to secure a commission for himself. That's deadly. That's deadly. I pray that the good Lord continues to watch over us and make sure that such people do not return in the 12th Parliament. But unfortunately, the people that we represent, they are also not serious. They are promoting this. We reach there, they are demanding for money. If you don't have money, most likely you will not win the next election.
Did you use money to win your current seat?
I don't want to say that I had much more money than my opponent, but I had money.
And you had to spend it?
Yeah, you had to spend it. You had to spend it. You had to spend it. Politics has both conventional ways and unconventional means of winning votes. And in the process, you spend a lot of money. So when you spend a lot of money, these MPs come here and they start looking at that
ways of recovery.
Window. How do I deal with this opponent? This opponent is coming in, I have to buy him. There are those ones who plan like that, have to buy him. Now I have how many? 5. That's how many each will ask 100. That's 500 billion. Where do I get it? It is this budget of cooperatives. If I take 2 billion, I have finished. There is this Human Rights Commission who do not have money. If we agree to increase their budget, my 20%, the 20% we share with it. Because don't think that it was an entire budget committee. It was just a small colleague, a group like of 5 MPs. Maybe they would include the chairman knowing it all and knowing it, and then they influence. Because if you are 5 on the committee, you can sway even the opinion of a bigger innocent group. That's what happens.
That's interesting. Let me get to you, Honorable Kwalinga. We've listened to this audio. How do you feel being represented in the House by a leader who makes these kinds of utterances in public?
Wow. Well, I told you my background. So what matters is how somebody perceives and interprets what corruption is. So if somebody passed through the system that somehow justifies certain aspects of safety, such as corruption, it will be very difficult for you to change that person to start thinking otherwise. I pass through my own system. That's why they call me the guardian, because being a guardian implies that you are holding the office that you are holding in trust of the others. You're not a heir in that office. The resources, you are just a trust of those resources. You have been given trust to hold those resources on behalf of the others. Somebody has been in that office and somebody will come after you. And just like the creation story, the Lord put us in the Garden of Eden to be guardians of that garden. If you mess up with that, then you will mess up with your own self. So, but what I want to tell you, first, there was an issue that Honorable Tika Smire mentioned. I wouldn't want to blame President Museveni for corruption, because President Museveni, for example, did not send the MPs to go and negotiate money with Uganda Human Rights Commission. President Museveni also does not control the way people are trying to glorify and condone corruption. President Museveni put in place entities, institutions. The executive came up with the laws that are anti-corruption laws that are in place today. It is up to the entities to do their work. When I was in IGG, I left when I was at the principal level. During Justice Faith Monda's time, we arrested ministers. We investigated and arrested ministers appointed by the president. And those ministers went to Luzira. Today, there are so many allegations of corruptions in almost all entities. Have the entities responsible done their mandate? And as the president stopped them from doing their mandate, apart from playing to the gallery, going to Kololo, then he say, we want to do audit, lifestyle audit, mentioning it in front of the president. Is that how they do work? An investigator does his work. You just go on, pursue your mission, come up with the incriminating report, and put it before the president if he so wishes. To the extent that he will even shy away to say, let me defend this person. This issue of saying that, his brother did this and did this, please, they are mandated institutions to do this work. Let us not let's not exclude them from from blaming them today. First of all, one thing, or the last one, please. In Turkey, on 15th July 2016, there was a coup attempt. There was money that had been involved to organize this kind of things. So when you see 750 billion, 10 trillion going into private hands, then the government should rather be scared that maybe there is something which is being prepared by some, more so in the hands of politicians. These are very ambitious people who have hidden intentions. Maybe their target is not the offices that they are in today. They are targeting higher offices. So we should be careful as a government to allow individuals take huge sums of money like this. These huge sums of money can result into dangerous things for our country.
Yeah, but on the issue of lifestyle audit, I think the president has also come out to say, the IGG should go slow on the lifestyle audit, otherwise the looters might be scared and take the money and invest elsewhere. You've had this kind of
sentence. Let me tell you, the president did not want to disagree with this junior in front of the cameras. You get it? The president basically was trying to, he knows there are people, civil servants, ministers, and all of this who are within this government. First of all, why would IGG wait for the president to come to Kolo to tell him that statement?
Okay, thank you. Honorable Ruzindana, as a former IGG, I want to go back to the question that Honorable Polo raised earlier. What makes you, why do you think the IGG seem to not be as functional or as strong or as powerful as it should be? As someone who has been there before, like you're saying, they should actually be proactive, not reactive. They should be at the forefront of actually doing this investigations because they have the power and the mandate to do so. Why don't they seem to be doing their job the way they should?
It's a systemic breakdown. What we are talking about now, it's not lack of systems. Systems do exist. And actually the systems are very good. Parliament has an oversight role. Now, that means that itself should not need an oversight over it. Now, from what we see, it also needs oversight. The institutions which we are talking about, the IGG, the Human Rights Commission, the Auditor General, they are generally called institutions of good governance. And they report to Parliament. Now, if they themselves are being co-opted to take part in corruption, because the incident of the Human Rights Commission and these other MPs is a case in point, that tells you there is a systemic breakdown. Blaming individuals, this and the Wengo thing is talking about Robin Hood characters, that Robin Hood was an English character who stole from the big people
and shared with the poor.
But now the big people is society. Yeah? In other words, you can steal from society and
take back to the same society
and take now. Once these things are talked about openly in this manner, we have a huge problem. The system is I was called by the president and told and appointed as IGG, and so I can't stand around and say he doesn't. He's not serious about corruption. I was implementing point number 7 of the 10-point program. It was there. So now the system has broken down. The point of discussion is what do we do to reset the system so that the system can fight corruption again, so that corruption is not the norm. It is the exception. Yeah. It is now. The Parliament is on a spotlight. But agencies of central government and of local governments and of municipalities and of cities, in corruption. That's why service delivery is one of the major problems. So how do we reset the system? In other words, we should now actually be discussing on how we again make the fight against corruption as one of the main objectives of government. Not participation. Now the main activity of government is participation in corruption. So how do we deal with it? Virtually all levels have been discredited. If you say, okay, let's deal with have the religious leaders, people will dismiss you. Those ones are already finished. If they tell you, us elders, we are already dismissed, and so on. We keep quiet. we keep quiet, and so the society, the country needs to check itself and say, okay, excesses have become the norm. This must stop. How do we stop it, and how do we move forward? That is really what there is no, for example, when it reaches the Parliament, even if its budget is small, Parliament is supposed to oversee the accountability system in the whole of government. Now, if it is incapacitated to carry out that program, then there is a problem. I was chair of the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, and I visited many countries and saw their systems. Now, where Parliament was participating in corruption was where cabinet was not from Parliament, and cabinet ministers had to entice their committees to pass their budgets. I remember in Nigeria, President Obasanjo sacking one minister who was bribing a committee with $400,000 to pass their budget, because cabinet members were not members of Parliament. But here, I am not sure why MPs would be bribed, and now why the whole system should participate with them. There is no way a member of Parliament can subvert a budget without the participation of the Minister of Finance, because they know the figures, and you can't just move them around, because normally reallocations take place in ministries, and that is, it doesn't change the bottom line. The budget remains the same, but where that takes place in the Parliament, it is a very, very serious matter. In other words, we need to be discussing how do we reset systems, because systems are there. The systems are definitely there, and the estimate of 10 billion trillion being the leakage, that is most of the budget leaks. That's why service delivery is failing. Is problematic.
Okay, Honorable Tinker, do you think Parliament is failing to perform its oversight function?
You know, when you start saying Parliament is failing, Parliament is not going to arrest the corrupt. It is not the first time for Parliament to even pinpoint the corrupt. We have held a number of discussions from the Auditor General's report and held recommendations for people to return money. What has been returned is a peanut. We can be proud that billions have been returned, but trillions are being lost. There is no trillion that has been returned. If any, there are few who have been arrested. But still, a lot of money is being lost. For me, I will still submit that President Museveni, being the chief executive of this country, takes greater responsibility in fighting corruption than any other person. And he's on the spotlight, I submit, for bribing members of parliament to remove age limit. I mean term limit, to remove age limit. So you can't say he does not glorify corruption. He's actually one of the most corrupt presidents in Africa. For those reasons, we have seen people being reappointed. Jim Mwezi was he indicted over corruption? Isn't he a minister? This woman for Uwero, Kaboyo, is she Kaboyo? Alice.
I think so.
Honorable Alice. She was indicted. She's a minister. I can go on and on. Very many people have been returned, but they have been rehabilitated. People who would stand firm have been hounded out of their offices. One of them is Right Honorable Kadaga. I saw how the energy the President Museveni used to hound out Kadaga. Now you are here, now shouting, I will deal with her mom. You are the one who brought her. You are the one who brought her. So for me, excuse me, President Museveni is the chief executive of this country. You have seen his son celebrating birthdays. Does he earn that money? 500 million on a birthday in one place. Over 300 birthdays have been celebrated. Does he earn that money? Can he ask him, where do you get this money? He's the one who gives him that money.
You're diverting.
It is not a diversion.
Why don't you focus on Parliament?
No, but we are talking about corruption.
Have you signed a censor motion for the commissioners who stole money?
How much did they steal? How much did they steal? 1.7
billion. Whether you steal a chicken, it is theft.
Money was given to Mpuga. The other commissioners have not received the money.
Now you see.
They opposed to receiving it.
You see. Then why don't you allow that motion to come on the floor? You sign so that those details you are giving will come out. Those details. Why don't you sign?
Honorable, have you signed?
Have you signed?
And
please,
have you?
Yes, I signed. I'm number 9.
If you signed, we are going to see how you are going to fight on the floor of the house.
You have you signed? If you think you are against corruption.
Honorable members, let's take a break. And but before we go into the break, if you're listening, we are going to open our studio lines shortly. You will feel free to give us a call and be part of the conversation. The studio lines are 0393 933 933, 0393 262 933. You could also reach us on 0393 262 934, 0393 266 933. 0701-933-934 and lastly 0751-933-900. We are talking about the MP's oversight. Are they failing? Are they doing a good job when it comes to fighting graft? Also remember, in the next when we return from the break, we would also want to now shift our attention to the conversation of what's happening in Kenya and how does it affect us and as a country and generally the entire East African region? This is VPN. My name is Judith Atim. Welcome back from the break. This is still VPN. And
yes,
we have a caller. Hello?
Good morning.
Yes? Hello?
My name is Daniel.
Sorry?
Daniel.
My name is Daniel.
Yes, Daniel.
I thank the panel for this very important topic. However, I must declare that corruption is deep-seated, where it has eaten us up as a cancer, starting from institutions of learning to places of worship to when now it has reached the epitome where even the House, which is supposed to protect us, is saying that as long as you eat with your citizens. So we are now lost. I think we have to come back to the drawing board. We crack the whip. And also the public should also start demanding. Actually, I expected the riot in Kampala against that statement in Rengo. So to me, everybody in the country should know that we are now losing every inch that we had in terms of values.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Daniel.
Good morning, Judith and the gentlemen.
Good morning.
This is Gina. I'm just appreciating the Guardian and the former IG. They're just on point. God bless them for me.
Thank you. A lot of feedback. Hello?
Yes, morning.
Good morning.
I am Apollo from Zambia here. Hello?
Sid.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Good morning, Madam Atim.
Good morning.
And all the panelists in the captain here. I want to say, I want first of all to thank all Mr. Honorable Banawasika Sinyere, Honorable Okwalina, the homeboy. Issues concerning corruption. I want to disagree with Mr. Barnabas when he says it is the president to be blamed. You know, for having his relatives, his sons, his daughters, in-laws, whatever. No, they are all Ugandans who deserve, who have all the rights to have jobs in the country. But it does not mean when I have you assisting, you therefore misuse the opportunity you have. And then I keep quiet. You know, sometimes for me, I'm very dynamic in these issues. I would like to say at a small extent that the president somewhere, somehow is to be blamed because he is so soft-spoken and he has made all the people responsible for our resources to always say the president has not decided. He has not guided. The last time I had Honorable Boa saying about the issues of the commissioners, he said all those who have signed should withdraw because the chairperson has not advised. You know, we cannot wait for the chairperson to advise. You see, that's why the whole system has become too weak.
Thank you very much. One more caller? Okay, we have one more caller.
Yes.
Good morning.
Atim, good morning, and the panel.
Good morning.
Juma Busika.
Yes, Juma.
Thank you so much for presenting this motion. You see, in Uganda, surrounded by people who does not have that motive for the development of other Ugandans than themselves. However, I wish the president should start facing community by himself. How many presidential advisors this Museveni have? In which way does they advise him? But how can we, what I may say, Uganda, by law, must actually know the role of police to follow, again, the role of these are the people who obstruct community from facing those higher offices. And they run away from their duties as per professional pertain. Okay? Now, you'll find even by virtue of following those corrupt MPs up to their constituency, this is by among ourselves. I heard the clip, but when she was talking good about the corrupt member of parliament, the reason which was coming from the crowd, it's like the people within that constituency, they were happy with the message being delivered by the speaker. Now, I will say, it is still going to take us decades of years for the whole country to get as a uniform to fight corruption. If those constituencies, the people from that constituency, they rejected that message, they stood up and bolded enough and said, no, speaker, you're wrong. If our representative in parliament is
you. We're actually running out of time. We just have about 18 minutes. One more caller.
Good morning.
Okay. Yes. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're talking to Laila. To Laila.
Naila.
Yeah, thank you for the show. Hello.
Yes, Naila. Please proceed.
Thank you so much for today's panel. And you know, in Uganda, there are certain fun people would like to see before the law in this fight against corruption. Number one, those people behind Peneti. Whoever introduced Peneti, if Mr. President, you're really sure you're fighting corruption, please bring them on board, plus Peneti herself. We need to see accountability for Ruwa Hospital and every project you borrowed for in that lane. And there are certain people who went ahead to borrow money, but they are teaching us how to take coffee. And then all those people need to face the law. You can't tell me you're teaching us to enjoy something we've had for some time, since way back then. You go ahead, borrow money. And in fact, that's all corruption.
Thank you. That's it? Okay. We actually are running out of time, really. We need to actually move fast and have the conversation actually on the developments in Kenya, the protests in particular, and the implications to us as a country and also to the region. But I don't know if we move to that conversation and then we come and just respond to some of these calls very fast. We've all been following what's happening, the Reject Finance Bill, a whole demonstration, a protest led by very young kids, majority of whom were born in the 90s, and then we see this wave just cascading and the whole country actually coming together and saying, look, this is a bad bill, this is not a good law for us, we are not interested in it, it's just against everything that we stand for, it cripples us, we're already going through very difficult economic times. Just what do you make for just your insights on what transpired in Kenya in the past week and what's still happening, and what lessons we can actually learn. I'll start with you, Honorable Rizal.
The first lesson is that the influence of social media and the youth is not yet internalized by the political class. The political class is generally older people, and they are not yet aware that the young people are now players actually, and they are linked through social media. It's an organization type of thing without leaders. It was Raila formally leading demonstrations and so on.
The kids told him, we don't want you involved this time.
Yes, they just gave him warnings. They said, please don't even get out. And they organized this thing on their own. And I had a commentary by the Deputy President saying that the intelligence system did not warn government that this thing was going to happen. In other words, this is a movement of young people that is undetected by the existing systems, and that is quite something that should be learned by our side, for example. And secondly, that the leaders, the current leadership class, must begin to become part of this class that rose in Kenya. We do have it. I have seen notices here of same things happening and so on. And indeed, I can tell you that people like us and even these younger ones probably don't mingle with the younger people, and they don't understand their thinking. And so we have a large number of people, and this census here has not probably revealed the number of people frustrated. Their aspirations are frustrated. We are planning things that do not take into account their own things, and the unemployment of these people, skilled as in whatever skills they have, must be taken into account. And it is clear it's not only here. You see what is happening in the United States in their campaigns now. But the Kenya one is instructive to us. And as things in Kenya were happening, there were also strikes of business with the business community in Tanzania. It started around Kariako.
We're running out of time.
And it is spread now throughout the country.
Yes.
And it is social media.
Honorable Tinka.
The society in Kenya has grown largely through what we call these cooperatives. Cooperatives build a very strong civil society. Whereas the population which led the group, the streets were largely young people. They are coming from these institutions who have been seeing a leader of a cooperative. If he misbehaves, he's kicked out immediately. If you go to Kenya and in a role, maybe make a census of the cooperatives that are existing, almost every village has that. And these children have been growing seeing this. When you add social media, the way that you communicate is very fast. The community in Kenya is more literate than Uganda. Uganda, even if we opened up for UPE, USE, we have not reached their level. Almost everyone in Kenya has had the biggest number, particularly this group of young people. They have had at least secondary education. So it was easier to mobilize them than what is here. And that courage is coming from that background where they see a leader being removed. And when they said that they entered Parliament and they said the next thing was to mobilize themselves and go to remove Ruto, they were going to do it. Ruto just moved very fast and said, I surrender, you forgive me. You forgive me. We don't know whether they have even forgiven him.
Not yet.
Because they are saying, he has to go. And I am afraid he may go because...
Honorable, let's come to Honorable Kwalinga here.
Well, for me, the issue in Kenya is a foreign industry situation, which...
what do you mean foreign induced?
Foreign induced in all aspects, according to my own strategic analysis of that situation. Number one, debt is often encouraged by foreigners on African societies and governments because they want to make them in a continuous situation of dependence so that they are vulnerable for easy overthrow upon their governments. Number two, first of all, you cannot tax yourself into development. You can't keep on oppressing your people with taxes in order to develop. You must look for a way of developing the talent within your people so that the talent will generate products, which products will generate revenue, which revenue you will use for development. So why were foreigners interested in that particular bill? There was a delegation from America, constituting over 8 people, in the House during the time of the passing of that bill.
Okay.
So a lot of money, have you analyzed how much money they used to mobilize for that? That's why intelligence was adamantly absent. That's why police, you see, they were not even involved. They were not even bothered. Now that President Ruto decides to do a tactical withdrawal, that's already another mistake that he has done. You cannot allow the situation to escalate to that level and then all of a sudden start trading space with time, what they call tactical withdrawal in the military. Trading space for time that you think that can buy you when the situation has already escalated. Instead, it's just going to be more oppressed and more cornered.
We just have 6 minutes to go. But when you talk about the foreign inducement, what we see, the relationship between Ruto and Museveni is very, very strong. Even when he was campaigning, before he became president, Ruto made so many trips. Even when he's president, we see him visiting Museveni a lot, exchanging notes on a number of issues privately. When we talk about foreign inducement, and Kenyans actually have also been thinking, questioning that relation.
That's why they attacked the Uganda house.
There's also that angle to this problem that we are seeing in Kenya. Could they also be looking at Uganda as
no. Uganda is, you will be misplacing your focus. It is which country in the world will want to encourage, or which area of the world?
Have you asked yourself why they only attacked Uganda house, not any other?
No, that is a misplaced hunger within the rioting group. But what I'm talking about is to first of all come with a bill, the finance bill. It was foreign induced.
That we understood.
Upon Ruto.
By the IMF and the World Bank.
And what do they want? They want Kenya to be in perpetual debt so that it makes the government dependent entirely on foreigners. Now it is easy for them to manipulate him. And he has made matters worse by doing a withdrawal. That is even worsening the situation. Now the people know he's a weak leader. He's an indecisive leader.
Is that weakness?
That is weakness. That is total weakness.
Would he have gone ahead to kill people?
Exactly. Would you
public record shows
first of all,
like we had in November 2020, would you rather
the public record shows a lot of people have died, the ones who have consumed. But
how many people die as a result of earthquakes?
Those on the ground.
Earthquakes. These are just 12.
Those on the ground.
These are just
more than 200 people have died. More than 200 people have died.
You can't put value.
Let me tell you. Once you have chosen a leader, a president, who's now going to be the commander-in-chief. He's going to have a monopoly. He's going to have a monopoly of application of violence.
But you choose leaders to work for your interest, to serve you, not to oppress you.
So was the finance bill benefiting Ruto, or it was going to benefit Kenyans?
I actually think
the finance bill was going to benefit Kenyans.
For me, that's an act of
Why did they reject it? You think that you are more understanding than the thousands that went to the street.
That was all foreign.
Let's wrap this discussion. We don't have time. Just in a minute each. Just if you could respond to some of the calls. Generally, everyone is against corruption. But somebody was saying it's not bad to actually give opportunities to your children and relatives, but they should not use this opportunity to actually abuse their offices and the positions they hold. Issues of accountability for Lubowa, money that was given to some entity to teach us how to drink coffee and so on. Even there's a whole conversation of money actually put into this whole coffee. It's a section of few people actually running the coffee sector. There are a lot of questions around that, but just generally 1 minute each for you to just respond to this and just wind up the conversation.
I think this is a conversation that must continue, because corruption has reached proportions that now prevent other systems from functioning. So we have to discuss how do we reset so that corruption is prevented, so that corruption is the exception, not the norm. It is the norm now, and that is a big problem.
Honorable Tinka.
For me, we need to have a head of state that is very, very strong, a chief executive that is very strong, fully committed to not compromise with any form of corruption. Having a minister who buys a mere rat at 8 million, a rat whose value, because these are science lab related rats, whose value is 200,000, you buy it at 800 at 8 million, and your appointing authority does not fire you. We have a pit like a Chaka Sugar where all the money is being dumped and no accountability. Lubowa things, we have things like, by the way, other than teaching people coffee, what this lady needs to know, that the person was given again $37 million does not even own a garden of coffee, of coffee in this country. And there we are. So I think whether, for me, I am not excusing the chief executive of this country. If we have to reset even the systems, as Senior said, it has to start from there. But unfortunately, he's become of age. We can't push him out. We have, we have to start compromising. This man, you may push him, he falls on you and dies. Sin sick principle gets you. No, you say, okay, continue, but try to now bite. Yeah? Let's pray that the stick has raised. It is going to continue raising it to everyone, including his own people in the system he brought.
Yes.
Thank you. For me, corruption basically is rebellion. Corruption is subversion. 750 billion can cause the government to fall. Corruption can be used to sponsor rebellion. And for that matter, I am putting the corrupt on notice to surrender, stop what they have been doing, because in this situation, the military can come in knowing that you can easily use that money to sponsor rebellion, because we know for a fact governments all over the world have always fallen as a result of corruption. We cannot take it for granted when people are taking huge sums of money. We don't think this is just money they want to live a good lifestyle. They may be having a big ambition than just mere living a good lifestyle. Why are you taking all huge sums of money for? For what purpose? What is your ambition? Are you not embarrassed? How can you not even be embarrassed that you are corrupt, that everybody else is saying you are corrupt, and for you are encouraging it? People should stop taking other Ugandans for granted. These are resources for the entire country, and therefore we have a stake at its allocation and utilization.
Thank you very much. My guest, Honorable Augustine Ruzindana, former IGG and former Member of Parliament for Ruhama County, Honorable Simon Peter Okwalinga Opolot, MP Kanyum County Kumi, and Honorable Barnabas Tinka Simira, MP Buyaga West County in Kagadi. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And to you all out there who's been listening, thank you very much, and for your phone calls and feedback. We've been discussing the issue of corruption. We've been asking if our MPs are failing in their oversight function. Thank you very much. VPN returns next Saturday, same time. My name is Judith Atim. Catch you again next Saturday. For now, bye-bye.